Hello and welcome to my studio. Well, we're meeting in a live session today. I hope that's coming through clear enough. A live session, and we're going to be looking at a landscape painting and painting it in a looser style. This is also about introducing you to the concept of the loose painting style or the impressionist painting. And it's more or less the lesson is what I get up to monthly with my live channel members as well. So you're getting a glimpse into that, and hopefully you can take away some good tips you can try out from this lesson. I'm going to be working on a series of loose painting lessons in the next month, and there'll be one following this soon as well, so look out for that. Okay, well, today's painting demonstration and tutorial probably in the region of about 45 minutes. So if you can't stay the whole time, the recording will be up on my YouTube channel for you to watch as well. So you won't miss that. You can catch up with anything that that you missed. All right, what else? In the description, I've got a giveaway that you can download, something about impasto painting and tips and techniques, which kind of relates a lot to what we're going to be doing today and in the forthcoming weeks. So you can find that in the description. And later on, when this is recorded on YouTube, there'll also be a link in the description somewhere above in the corner of the video. All right. Well, it's going to be a fair amount of time with this painting. So I'm going to cross over and just share the screen as well. And if that's possible, and I'm going to maybe show you, or hopefully, if YouTube lets me, show you something about the differences between the styles of painting, loose and so on. So let's have a look at that. And let's see. If I can't show it to you, then that's not a problem either. Doesn't really matter too much. We can get straight into the painting demonstration. I think that's probably going to be best. Everything I'm going to be discussing in this demonstration, you can find in the notes from the download as well, and also in the forthcoming demonstrations over the next few weeks. All right, let's have a look at the easel. I'll go over to that, and we can with the painting. Okay, so you can see the reference in the top there. And basically what I want to do is to turn all of those shapes, right? All of those little bits and pieces of the landscape and turn that into something that is looser, more energetic, perhaps more expressive. The beauty of painting in a looser style, especially using your brushwork, is that you can be almost, well, anything you choose. You can be expressive, use big, bold brush strokes, keep it almost abstract, and you can also build up a lot of texture, depth, and interest to your painting surface. And that gives the viewer a lot more to take away from the painting. So we're going to look at a few things in the demonstration as well that you can try out. More specifically, how I'm using the brushes, how I load paint onto the brush, and also putting down clean color notes that are vibrant and avoiding getting a muddy appearance. Okay, so let's have a look. We got comments already from all over Scotland, Colorado, Fredericksburg, Texas. Welcome. I'm glad you joined me. Okay, lots to chat about during the painting. So let's get going with that. And okay, so I'm painting on a panel, gessoed panel, and it's about 10 by 12, and pretty much my favorite painting surface. Certainly you see me doing a lot of these demonstrations with this particular size. Now let's look at these brushes, mostly number 8 and number 6. You can see nice flexible bristle brush. This is an 8. Let's get the two size 8s together. They're all long flats, or at least they started out that way. You can see they get pretty worn down and turn into filberts, basically. Let's look at the a few other things. The paints: titanium white, ultramarine, cerulean, lemon yellow, deep yellow, red light, alizarin, and there's burnt sienna and yellow ochre. Burnt sienna is just behind the picture there. My typical palette of colors, you can do pretty much anything with that. And, you know, it's warms and cools are the primaries. I think that is the main concept. I'm using some linseed oil to loosen up the paint a little to begin with. But from that point on, it's straight paint without any medium. Okay, so you can also use tools like this. The painting knife, good old flexible painting knife like this, can put a lot of paint onto your painting surface, and you can mix up paint as well. Mix up the colors you need on your palette. It makes painting sometimes a little easier to get through. And we're going to start with a very basic little paint sketch with some ultramarine, just to get things going. I've put a little bit of linseed oil on my brush, and I'm just going to start getting an idea of the composition. The horizon line, very important, get that in. By the way, any questions in the chat, I'll try to get to them all at the end of the demo. So put them in there while I get on with this. So one of the big things is, I always stress, is look for the dark shapes. So I'm moving the brush around pretty much like I would using a pencil or any other drawing tool to compose a painting. I'm just keeping the brush on the panel and just smudging it around. Also, this helps me to get my mind right for the painting. Just gets me into the flow of things, and I'm not creating little details. You can see with the brush, just smudging the basic composition, and especially where I'm going to put dark shapes, because it's the dark shapes that help me show off the light. And this is one of the beauties of painting loose for me, is nothing really gets in the way of showing the light. I'm not sweating over many little details. I put all those aside, all those considerations aside, and just think about the shapes. How can I translate all of these greens, for instance, all the trees, bushes, etc., translate that into shapes? What I'm doing here is starting off that process. I've just combined a whole lot of trees and bushes into one flat shape. And as I go, I will start defining those just a little. So let's get a little more paint going, some burnt sienna and ultramarine to get a dark, really strong dark. Let's put a touch of yellow in there, deep yellow, just to get a little bit of a green tinge to it. Not too important other than to get a strong dark. And now this is the first stage of the painting. Of course, it's what we call the blocking in stage. And it's just about getting the big shapes. Right, I've taken this beautiful rose bush that's tumbling over the wall, the shadows, everything, turned it into one flat, dark shape. The same with the shadows on the sidewalk and etc. One shape. All right, simple shapes, simplify everything. And this makes brushwork a lot, I would say, a lot more abstract at this stage. Like these cypress trees, just a vertical shape. The trees, whatever, it could be an oval, circular, just get them in their basic format. Makes life a lot simpler. You can turn your basic tree into three shapes: a light, a dark, and something in the middle. Add a highlight perhaps and a shadow, and that will be the tree. And it'll be convincing to the viewer because at a distance, that's what we're seeing for the most part. Shapes, not leaves or twigs. A little bit cooler in the distance there, so I used some cerulean, which is my cool blue. Obviously, I'm using oils, but the same applies with acrylics. The same really applies with gouache as well, any sort of opaque medium. So this is the sunny side of the street, as it were. So we're putting a little bit more yellow into it. The stronger lights will come into the picture soon enough. But still getting the structure through the darker shapes. So the size of the brush here, this is a size 8, a long flat, makes a big difference when you're painting on a smaller surface because no little details. Here I'm just got a building on the right here, which I want to get some of the paint off just to help me get the bright white in a bit later. For the rest, I'm pretty happy with the dark structure. So I'm going to clean off the palette and we're going to start working on some lights. I don't clean the palette off too often, but because I have such a small surface that's visible here, I don't want the lights contaminated. So a bit of yellow ochre, titanium white, touch of cerulean, and I'm going to start working in the lightest lights. That would be the sky and also the road. Now the sky in a photograph tends to always be shown a little, quite a strong blue. The mistake would be to make it a dark blue. When I'm standing outside looking at a bright sunny landscape like this, the sky usually looks very bright. You know, you want to put your sunglasses on, it's really bright. Try to get that with your painting. Yeah, maybe just a little too much blue at the top there. So I'm going to just lighten and warm that up a bit. What happens is that your landscape reflects light back up into the sky. So you're especially closer to the horizon, you probably see a more ochre color, very light ochre, even sometimes a little yellowish. Above all, I prefer my skies to be warm looking than a cool blue. Sometimes a really fresh cerulean blue sky can be very attractive, but mostly I want warm, bright skies. And that means my landscape's got to sort of all fall into place and line itself up with that. The sky is the brightest thing, and then I know this hill, for instance, can't be as bright as the sky. Nevertheless, I'm going to put a little more warmth into it. But ochre is still a much cooler color than yellow. There'll be more yellow in the foreground, and that ochre will recede sufficiently. Although I'm using a big brush, I can still make little marks with it as well, but even the smaller marks are a degree looser than if I used a little brush and was very precious about each little shape. So these brushes are extremely versatile. Just feeling out the shape of the building. Very much an impression. I just try to get the proportion more or less accurate by comparing one shape to the other, and you should pretty much get your proportions accurate. So the building, just adding a nice little counterpoint to all the organic shapes, but more than that, the building is simply part of the landscape, and I'll treat it like any other shape. Okay, so while I'm blocking in, I've spoken about the larger brush. That's definitely an excellent way to loosen up your painting immediately, working on a smaller surface. Getting a quick sketch is another good way, and I'm going to do a video on that very soon. Squinting at your subject, even your reference photo, even though on your screen now, if you just close your eyes sort of halfway and look at the reference photo, and you'll see shapes of light and dark, not twigs and trees and specific shrubs, etc. So yeah, I'm getting some nice warm color into the foreground of the road. In the reference, the road actually looks quite cool. There's a lot of sort of bluish gravel on the road as well, and that kind of gives a cool appearance. But I'm ignoring that for the time being. I want the road to lift up towards us, so the foreground, it needs to be warm, and down at the bottom of the road in the distance, that'll be a lot cooler. Smaller brush strokes back there. More texture in the foreground also brings the foreground up to us. And you'll see that your road will look like it's heading into the painting. Okay, the wall, burnt sienna is what I consider to be the base color or the local color of the wall. And just cooling it down a bit. It's in the shadow side, obviously. The light is coming from kind of top left to right. So just burnt sienna and some cerulean blue, mixing that in, and it gets that cool shadow sienna color. There'll be a little bit of light at the top of the wall catching it there, which will be quite attractive. So just keeping an eye on the reference and more or less guesstimating the placement for the painting. Just I think the light on the top there, and these little sort of highlights, they're not quite highlights at this stage. It's all fairly middle value. But because it's up against some dark, cool shapes, it will look a bit lighter. I'll just bring this down a little just to get my perspective more or less placed correctly there. The building, we can just really glimpse a bit of it, and I'm going to keep that very loose, just more lining it up with the other building there, and it's getting it more or less the right shape. Although I think the building I just got to cut in it with a bit of background color, and I'll get that a bit better there. Just had it coming forward a little too much. Shadow side is simply some cerulean. It's still got a bit of that burnt sienna in it. It's just basically a gray, isn't it? And using the brush to put down very quick and basic shapes. Okay, trees down the road there. There's quite a bit of light, but I've got to make it cool. So how do you cool down your colors? You can add a cool color like blue, which is the color of shadows. White also knocks back the color quite dramatically. It can make it sometimes a little too cool and pasty, so add back a bit of color. So I'm going to make sure there's still some yellow in those distant trees, but leaning more towards blue. So you notice still using a large brush, although it's small shapes back there. And all I'm trying to look for is a light, something in between, and then a dark, the dark being the shadow side of a tree. So if you can distill the entire light side of a tree into one or two brush strokes, that is going to give you that impressionist look, that looser look. But it will fall into place for the viewer because, like I said in the beginning, we see shapes of light and dark. The cypress, I've got to fix that just now. Just get a shadow over here. Strengthen the dark a little. So there must be 4 or 5 different trees, etc. I can glimpse a bit of a red tree. It could be a bougainvillea growing up there. There's lots of those in this part of the world. But I think the cypresses just need to come over a bit, so I'll have to just cut in with a bit of sky there, just clean that up with a painting knife. Not a problem. If something's wrong, correct it now. And it's gone. And that's, I think, a bit better place. There's these beautiful conifers just sticking out in the distance. But suggesting them with 4, 5, 6 strokes. There's a light there. Still a coolish yellow-green. The stronger yellows will be in the foreground, of course, so we create distance that way, aerial perspective. I think another big problem with just loosening up a style is developing some confidence. We tend to tighten up and look for realistic looking shapes in a painting because we want to Well, we want to get that right because we're perhaps lacking some confidence in our overall painting skill. Painting loose and still getting a painting that pulls together and looks kind of more natural to the viewer. It does take time to get that right, but I don't think it ever quite becomes, you can never get to a point where you say, I know everything I need to know. All right, I think it's good to get that out the way. So you can see these shadows. I'm bringing some violet. That's just a bit too much ultramarine there. I'm bringing some blue and violet into shadows. There is always room in a landscape for violet. That's one of my favorite colors because it just seems to support so many other colors. I guess perhaps because there's a lot of yellow in my landscape, so violet is there to offset that and really give it some more punch. But if you're doing a landscape, in fact, I think any painting, find an excuse to bring some violet into your painting and you'll see it adds an extra bit of zest. Okay, let's get some light just coming over the wall there and hitting this grass. 1, 2, 3 brush strokes, and we've got some light grass there, so let's do the same here. Another one there. I love this part of the painting stage. It's perhaps the least stressful. Still blocking in the major shapes, getting your ideas into color. Round number 2 is when we start adding the bigger layers. So just top up there. You can see my white paint has become quite dirty with all the grays, but we might use some of those still. So this is a little thicker here, so I'm loading up the brush a bit more. I've switched to a number 6 brush, and because these are now direct light objects, getting direct sunlight back into the shadows here. So the shadows can be thinner. They don't have to be so thickly textured. There's no real point in doing that. Sometimes my shadows can have a lot of paint, but then the lights must have even more. I don't want my shadows to dominate the light. Okay, so pretty much got that blocked in. I want a little bit extra light. So pick up paint and put it down in an economy of strokes. Check your brush as well. If you pick up, let's say you're working with lights, but you stray into your shadow area, just wipe that brush off. Off camera, I'm wiping that brush very frequently. Okay, let's get some nice juicy paint right into just trying to define these shadows a little, and I've got to just try and figure out. I've just picked up that blue. So there's a bit of shadow in this foreground. I've got to put that in. It's quite important. And it would be nice if the shadows at the back here went right across the road. So I am improvising a little. What I want to avoid with shadows is a sort of a zebra stripe effect. So extend that one a bit. Bring in a little bit of color into those shadows. The blue and the violet I spoke about earlier. So I'm just going to stretch this across a bit more, and we'll see this one as well. So yes, colorful shadows. Don't leave them looking like they are black shapes. Photographs don't really handle shadows very well, and we copy that in our painting, and then it looks too dark. If I had more time, I'd probably spend more time just getting these flowers looking a little shaped a little better, but nice stroke here for the front of this building. The shadow and light on the wall. Just getting the light on the right-hand side a little more established. There's some nice greens we can add over here. Thickening the paint, trying to put down a lot more paint with less brushwork so I don't lose the texture. Now, if you feel that you're getting lost, just put your brush down, stand back, and look at the painting from across the room. And you'll probably be surprised at how lively it becomes, and it pulls together, and you get a taste of reality, but and something more interesting than perhaps just looking at your photograph, but now you're getting something that perhaps you felt about the scene. Very important reason why we loosen up our painting is to try to get more of our feeling of the scene. That burnt sienna, really very, very nice little warm color against the green there. Still working on this distant aerial perspective here. I'm dragging a little too much white paint into it. Something that I'd rather put down a cool color in the distance there than too much white. So more blue than white would be better. These eucalyptus trees have a nice touch of sort of an orangey green, but they're too close to the edge of the painting surface, so I don't want to get them too detailed. A sky hole or two and a tree trunk suggestion, and that may be all I need there. Thicken up some of the lights, get this red, just want to touch more red there. Now there's no figures in this scene, but I'm definitely going to add one, of course. Swap to a round brush here, and we're just going to let it fall across this eucalyptus tree and suggest a few shapes of a tree trunk or so, really just to break up the shape. Okay, that's just a bit too dark. Get a bit of blue on there and break it up. There's a utility pole. I'll just put a shadow there. Utility poles are something often put in, or there is one in the reference, but it just breaks up some of the organic shapes a little. Reestablishing some of these darks over here, I just feel it needs a little more depth and mystery further down the road, but would help in the foreground as well, I think. Just get a vertical in here. Okay, the painting's come a long way. I'm now resorting to the rigger brush. That means a few little tiny shapes that I don't feel too confident about using a number 8 brush. So just that light on the roof, a few little minor shapes. I'll also use the rigger for adding a figure down the road and sign off the painting when I get to that. Okay, time to add this little guy. Just a rectangle, one leg longer than the other as he's walking down, a touch of red. I think we need just look like he was wearing a dress there. Just a very, very loose little shadow. You don't want that too hard. You keep your edges soft for something like that. And just a bit of roofing shape. A few little details like this. No, it's not entirely necessary, but I feel they go a long way, one or two shapes like that. And this is also when you need somebody to remind you it's time to stop the painting. I can, of course, carry on adding thicker strokes here or there, but you don't want to lose the spontaneous feel of it either. Leave some mystery. A scar hole or 3. Maybe just a bit of definition and some structure to the side of the road. Yeah, let's get a little more. I lost some of that nice greenish yellow, so let's get that back. Lots of paint, just thick stroke of paint, one stroke. Almost pure lemon yellow. And a few of these finishing highlights. Don't hold back with these strokes with paint volume. They must be textured. Well, I think we're almost there. Let's just finish off a few little. Just cut in here. And let's get it signed. Tape off. So this is loose, but it's the way I love to paint. I can take things a little further with this painting, but I probably won't. At this point, it's best to leave the painting overnight, perhaps look at it the next day. If there's a glaring mistake, you can fix that. But otherwise, you can leave it. And I'm pretty happy with that. I think we've achieved what we needed to. Main shapes are in. and nice light. That's very important. If you got a, are you showing the light? Right? We mustn't, it's not an overcast day. A light from the sky is obviously very strong. You need good shadows, need good light and dark to define your shapes. All right, I think we're pretty much got through this one. Yeah, okay, and I hope you got a few tips or inspired you to try out a few things. And let's go back there. And then you can have a look, as I said, in the description. I've got a download there you can get hold of. When this video is up on YouTube later, today, tomorrow even, there'll be something in the top. I'll link up to some more tips you can have a look at. Let's have a look. Yeah, lots of all over. UK, China, Netherlands. Excellent. Austria as well. Amazing. Thanks very much for joining in. And yes, all going to be saved automatically on YouTube. You can catch it again if you need to. And yes, somebody get you to stop. That's also something we definitely learn through lots of errors. All right, excellent. Thank you very much. I'm going to also, the next video in the series is just going to be having a look at the loose sketch, right? A preparatory sketch, but that's going to be coming next. I like to get things back to front, it seems, but I just wanted to get this particular painting done for you. Okay, cool. Thanks, Rick and Ronald, Laurie. Excellent. Okay. Thanks very much for watching all this time, and 40 minutes. I'd appreciate that very much. All right, I'm going to say goodbye, and feel free to leave any comments on the video. And if there's anything you need to know, just add it to the comments, questions, and I may even be able to turn it into a video as well. So thanks very much. Okay, keep well, everyone, and thanks for joining me, and we'll see you again soon. All right, happy painting.